I suggest finding yourself a mentor if you can, somebody to guide you, somebody that can have that perspective aside from yourself. It's as a business owner, you've got so much going on and so many things to be concerned with. It's good to have somebody who can stand back and kind of sort through all the noise and say, "Hey, this is a good idea, or maybe not such a good idea." I use my wife a lot when I'm building websites. Hey, look at this. Does that look right to you, or should we try this? And kind of a layman's point of view. So, but more to the business. Get yourself a mentor or somebody that you can talk to about the decisions you make, so you don't go off in a wrong direction. And,
Mm.
get some advice. Somebody's been down that road before and avoid some of the pitfalls.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7 and 8 figure businesses, as well as the founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where we help startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. If you ever need help with yours, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Dale West. And Dale, straight out of high school, joined the service, and I think in Europe, or went to Europe, which are one or the other. And after that, did a apprenticeship with doing tool making, and then started out in the manufacturing business doing tool making, and then graduated up into engineering and spent about 40 years in the tool making industry. And then after that, decided to retire for a bit. Retirement didn't quite stick, and so came back out of retirement and is doing his current business, which we'll share a little bit more about. So with that much as a introduction, welcome on the podcast, Dale.
Yeah, good morning. Glad to see you.
Oh, good to be seen. So, well, I just gave a 30-second version to a much longer journey. And so let's go back in time a bit and unpack that. So tell us a little bit about how your journey got started joining the service out of high school.
Oh, I didn't really see myself as a college guy. I was always more mechanically inclined, taking some machining classes, shop class, that kind of thing in high school. Did some vocational training there. Joined the service, their promise to provide education skills that you can take on to your civilian life, that sort of thing. So, not knowing the college route, I did that. Worked out very well for me. As you mentioned, I was stationed in Germany for 3 years. Loved that. Here I was 19 years old and in Europe and steady paycheck and single, and it was a good time. But that's how I got started, working on helicopters, Army aviation, and went on to the machining and machinist toolmaker and
So now,
all
wait,
that.
just as jumping in, was that while you were in the service you were doing that, or is that after you got out of the service?
While I was in the service, they actually trained me in aviation, and I was stationed with a unit where we maintained helicopters for all the bases in Europe.
So now you're in the service. Now, how long were you in the service for?
Oh, I just did the standard 3 year tour and then joined the National Guard after that. I did that for another 7 years, so total of 10 years of service.
So you stayed in for about 10 years total service, and then what made you decide to get out or go in a different direction, and kind of go into the private industry?
Well, I just didn't see myself retiring from the service. The National Guard portion of that was part time. So I started my civilian career in that time and, wanted to pursue that. I enjoyed the tool making work and got into design and drafting, and that's what led to the engineering work.
Hmm. So now you got in, started doing that, and so you got into doing kind of the originally doing, I think you said tool making, and then got into the engineering side of things. And so was that now all within the same company, and worked for the same company over a period of 40 years, or did you move around and kind of move up, or kind of where what was that portion of the journey
Uh,
like?
Well, yeah. Starting out in the shop, tool making, my specialty was plastic injection molds. So I was in the plastics industry, but I moved around quite a bit. I joined a number of different companies and moved around the eastern US with my career. I've been in Ohio, New York, Mississippi. I'm now in Texas. So moved around quite a bit, but everyone was a step up in the career. Um, engineering management.
So you did that, and so you did that, I think for a period of 40 years, and it sounds like you kind of, moved your way up. It stayed a lot of the same skill set and doing the same business or doing the same job for that over that period of time.
Yeah, well, like I say, the specialty was plastics manufacturing, and that was the common thread through all of it. Started out building the molds, and then designing the molds, and then engineering projects, and the whole manufacturing bit. So just one step led to another.
So you had that one step lead to another, and you did that for the space of 40 years, and then, as everybody does, you said, okay, I had a good long run and gonna go towards retirement. So kind of, what was there a, hey, I've got enough money in the bank, I want to retire, or I'm worn out and want to take a break, or hey, I've got, something else that I want to pursue, or kind of what made you decide to take the leave from the industry that you've been in for about that 40-year period and step back towards retirement?
It was tired of it, want to take a break. It's a lot of hard work manufacturing.
Mm.
Anybody out there who's in that industry, it's tough, it's highly competitive, it's hard work, it's long hours. And I got to that age where I was enough is enough. Had my interests on the side, which was doing the engineering, a lot of computer work and some programming, that sort of thing. When the internet rolled around in the early 90s, World Wide Web, that is, the internet been around a lot longer than that. But when the web became the thing in the early 90s, I started looking at HTML code, which is the code behind web pages, and playing with that. So
So, oh, go ahead.
again, one thing led to another. It was for fun. It became a bit of a hobby. Friends are like, hey, can you do this for me? And, charge a few dollars, and saw an opportunity to make something more of it. And so I consider it now a hobby that's gone wild, or a hobby that pays for itself, which, you know, better than owning a boat or something, right?
Absolutely. So now just kind of diving into that a bit more. So or how long did you how long were you in retirement, or how long did the retirement stick before you decided, hey, I've got a hobby that I want to make a little money at?
There was only about a year's time there where I wasn't seriously doing web design as a standalone business, that I was, quote, retired. Uh, didn't take long to need something to do with my spare time.
Makes perfect sense. So it started out, you're retiring, kind of just picked up a hobby or something fun to do during or passing the time. Now, kind of at what point did you say, okay, this is enough that I can at least, make a business of it or have a little bit of supplemental income? And was that kind of the intent? Did you kind of make that decision at some point in time, or did it kind of just naturally evolve and said, hey, well, if I'm going to be doing this, I might as well make a little money at it? Or kind of how did you take that step, because you worked for a long period of time and I'm sure a well-earned retirement? And so how did you decide, okay, I'm going to kind of step back out of retirement or to do this?
Well, it wasn't really an intentional choice. Opportunities kept coming my way. Word got around, hey, he did my website for me, and, why don't you give this guy a call? And, I was always glad to take on a new client, and, I was having fun with it. And the way I work now is much more relaxed than a manufacturing environment. I work at home. I set my own hours. If I need to take off, that's cool. If I need to put in an overnighter on a project, I can do that.
Mm.
I'm working for myself is the big thing, instead of making somebody else rich.
No, that makes perfect sense. So now, So how long ago was that you came out and kind of more, I say in quotes at least officially, kind of came out of retirement or made it more of a, hey, this will at least be anything from a side hustle to a part-time job to doing it as, as the work comes along. But how long ago was that?
2015 is when I officially started the business. That's the date I use.
So you
So
start
7 years
okay.
at it. Yeah.
So you started it in 2015, which is a good period of time now. How has it gone? I mean, because it sounds like, and I'm putting words in your mouth, but not meaning to. But um, how did it evolve? In other words, so you started officially in 2015. 7 years is a good period of time. Did it start out just kind of slowly picking up jobs as they came along, or was it much more intentional? I'm going to go out and find jobs, and is it ramped up to where you have teammates or independent contractors? Have you always stayed a one-man band, or kind of give us a bit of insight how that past 7 years has gone?
Well, yeah, I started out as just myself, but I quickly discovered that, I'm not a great artist. I do the programming fine, but I found I needed, better looking websites. So I started looking out. LinkedIn is kind of my place to find freelancers to help me out. Hooked up with a graphic artist, it's just fantastic. Brent, if you're out there listening, hey, it's been a good run, right? We've had a lot of fun. And then, we get into some technical issues that were beyond, my capability. I found a programmer, retired Boeing software engineer. It's
Mm.
just been fantastic. And I couldn't be anywhere near where I am today without him either, Paul. Kudos to you. Uh, and then eventually copywriter to help me out, you know, writing more marketing oriented copy and, more colorful. I'm not a word person either. I say I write code. So uh, I found these other talents, the other facets of the web design, and I feel the quality of work just followed that. We kept doing better, and the reputation gets out there. Now we're even to the point where we advertise a little bit, and the work's coming in on a steady basis.
Awesome. So it sounds like, from 2015, you've grown to have a couple additional people on the team that help out in various aspects. And you've actually grown into a business where you're doing a bit of marketing and advertising and otherwise bringing in work. And so with that, now if you're to kind of say, okay, that's where we're at today, where do you see kind of things headed in the future? Is it kind of just kind of steady state? We'll keep going as we are. Or do you have plans to continue to grow it or build it, or kind of give us an idea of kind of where you see things head in the next 6 to 12 months?
Well, we still have extra capacity right now. The freelancers I work with are part time so far, so we could pick up a little more business on a regular basis. Beyond that, I don't see it growing that much more. Like I said, I'm retired. I don't want to start a whole big thing and get back into sleepless nights and all like that. We're having fun and we're making a few bucks doing it. So I kind of like to keep it that way.
No, and I think that that's a great place to be in, because I think a lot of times people start a business and they feel like they have to keep growing it and making it bigger and expanding it, and all the things that come along with the typical business. And a lot of times as you get into it, sometimes it's better to step back and say, hey, this is whether it's a retirement business or a side hustle, or hey, I'm happy with making this amount of income, and if I grow it, I have to do a lot more management, a lot more work, and it gets to be something I don't enjoy. And I think having that, being self realistic is that this is the type of business I want it to be, makes it set it up to where it's a lot more enjoyable in the long run and also a lot more sustainable. So it sounds like it's definitely or on a great trajectory. So with that, now as we've
Definitely enjoy
go
my
ahead.
work. Yes. Go ahead.
No, absolutely. So yeah, so with that, so now as we've kind of caught up to the present day of your journey and even looking a bit into the future, it's always a great time to transition to the two questions I always have at the end of each episode. So we'll jump to those now. So the first question I always ask is, along your journey, what's the worst business decision you ever made? And what'd you learn from it?
Well, at one point, as many agencies do, I think, I looked overseas for help. And there are problems with doing that. If you have any contractual disputes or payment disputes, you don't really have any kind of legal recourse. If you're working internationally, unless you want to hire a very expensive international lawyer. The other thing I discovered cultural differences between Americans and folks from overseas. Uh, it can be difficult to paint a picture with somebody when they're coming from a different cultural background. You're trying to convey, I need graphics that look like this, or I need copy that speaks a certain way. And it can be difficult to get that across. So I had a bad experience with working offshore. And besides, I want to keep Americans at work, built in the USA. So that's kind of our thing now. We keep everybody here in the States and call us all American made.
No, and I like, and I think that there is always that temptation. And I'm not knocking. We have some virtual assistants we use that are not in the US that do an awesome job. But and they get paid better than what they would on a lot of other jobs. We get a price cut versus what you pay in the US. And so there's always that motivation. Yet on the flip side, I think oftentimes, businesses will say, well, it's got to be made in China, or it's got to be done in, call centers got to be done in India. And sometimes it fits well with the business, but oftentimes you have to be realistic. Does it fit with your business model? Are you able to offer the right amount of service? You offer the right skill sets, and and as you mentioned, legal recourse, which you have to be understanding that you don't have the same. It's not like you have an employee that lives down the street or nearby, and if they do something that is incorrect, or you can go and dispute it or otherwise resolve it. It's a whole different ballgame when you're outside of the US. And so I think that that's an easy mistake to learn, because you see everybody wants to go off sea or over shores, and in order to reduce costs, and yet it doesn't always have those benefits. Not to mention, it's great to be supporting made in the USA, so to speak.
Yeah, for
Second,
my particular business, it just, the cost savings wasn't worth the difficulties.
absolutely, perfect, or makes perfect sense. So, second question now I always ask is, if you're talking to somebody that's just getting into a startup or a small business, what would be the one piece of advice you'd give them?
Well, I suggest finding yourself a mentor if you can, somebody to guide you, somebody that can have that perspective aside from yourself. It's as a business owner, you've got so much going on and so many things to be concerned with. It's good to have somebody who can stand back and kind of sort through all the noise and say, hey, this is a good idea, or maybe not such a good idea. I use my wife a lot when I'm building websites. Hey, look at this. Does that look right to you, or should we try this? And kind of a layman's point of view. So, but more to the business. Get yourself a mentor or somebody that you can talk to about the decisions you make, so you don't go off in a wrong direction. And,
Mm.
get some advice. Somebody's been down that road before and avoid some of the pitfalls.
No, that makes perfect sense. So I love that piece of advice. So awesome. Well, now as we're wrapping up towards the end of the episode, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
Well, I always like people to visit our website and comment on that. It is madscientistwebdesign.com, and you can find our phone number or email address there. Give us a shout. Glad to talk to anyone who wants to, has a few questions.
Awesome. Makes make or great way to connect. Definitely encourage people to reach out, and otherwise get that or get that connection made, and that great, it's a great resource. So, well, thank you again, Dale, for coming on the podcast. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Now for all of you that are listeners, if you have your own journey to share and you'd like to be guests on the podcast, we'd love to have you. So just go to inventiveguest.com, apply to be on the show. A couple more things as listeners, make sure to click share, subscribe, and leave us a review, because it makes it or allows us to be able to share all these journeys with all the other startups and small business out there that are getting or looking for assistance along their journey. And with that, if you ever need help along your journey with patents, trademarks, or anything else with your startup, your small business, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Well, thank you again, Dale, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
All right. My pleasure.